Plenty of yoga students think that using yoga props in their practice is only for beginners, but that is absolutely not true. In fact, plenty of advanced practitioners use yoga props in their daily practice. Some students can't even practice certain poses without the use of yoga props. Props can help prevent injury and provide stability. They bring us comfort and support. Ultimately, using yoga props can help you deepen your physical practice. Here, we are going to look at the most commonly used yoga props: blocks, straps, bolsters, and blankets. We'll get a sense of how these props function and what their purpose is. We'll go through a couple of examples of how you'd use different yoga props, and then also take a look at some household alternatives you can use if you don't have traditional props available. So why don't you strap in and let's get started. The truth is, yoga props as we know them today are a modern invention. But when we talk about modern yoga props, if we did want to call somebody the inventor, it would definitely be BKS Iyengar. Through experimentation in his practice and his teaching, Mr. Iyengar designed a lot of the common props we use today. His utilization of yoga props helped students realize the full potential of poses they wouldn't have otherwise, as well as opening up and popularizing the use of props for therapeutic and restorative yoga. Today, props are a pretty standard feature of any yoga studio, and for good reason. Yoga props can help overcome physical limitations, protect against injury, provide support and comfort, provide stability, or reduce physical exertion. Generally speaking, the widespread use of yoga props has made yoga accessible to all people and body types of any age with any disability. Let's go through each yoga prop individually to understand what they're used for, how they work, and some alternatives you can use if you don't have any of the traditional yoga props at your disposal. Let's start with blocks. Mr. Iyengar started experimenting with yoga props because he quickly realized most students needed additional support to get the full benefits of certain poses. He wanted his students to experience the same freedom in body and mind that he felt when practicing these postures. Using yoga props helped his students achieve precise alignment that they otherwise wouldn't have on their own. Originally, blocks were made of wood. These days, blocks come in 3 different materials. You have wood, cork, and foam blocks. Wood blocks are really hard and heavy, but they're very stable. In my opinion, though, they're just not that comfortable. On the other end, you have foam blocks, and they're definitely a lot lighter, but typically aren't very stable. My personal favorite are the cork blocks. They're right in the middle. They're heavy enough to provide stability in standing poses, for example, but soft enough to provide comfort if you use them in restorative yoga poses. You really get the best of both worlds. Ultimately, if I had to choose one set of blocks, I'd use cork blocks because they are the most diverse. They're easy to handle, they're stable, and they're comfortable. Blocks also have 3 different height settings: flat and wide, medium, or high, which is straight up. Blocks have many different functions and uses, but they are most typically used for stability. For example, a yoga block is most frequently used in standing poses when a student's hands cannot reach the floor. Using blocks in this situation can help bring the floor up to your hands. Oftentimes, students want to do too much too fast, even if the body is not quite ready. Injury happens when a student pushes their body beyond where it is ready to be. Using yoga blocks properly can help protect against injury. Because blocks are so diverse, they allow students to work at the proper pace that is right for their body at that particular time. In the same way we use blocks to prevent injury, we can also use them to help overcome physical limitations in terms of strength, flexibility, and range of motion. You can also use blocks to provide support, and a great example of this would be in a supported fish pose. In supported fish pose, you have two blocks, one to support the upper back and one for the head. This is a great example of a pose that many students could not practice without the use of props. Don't fret though, if you don't have blocks at home, there are household alternatives you can use. Books are the most obvious. Try to find two hardcover books about the same height and length. You want something that's easy to hold on to and strong enough to support you so it provides stability. I've even seen students use a couple of coffee mugs at their house. So there you have it. Blocks are a really versatile prop. They can be used to provide stability, protect against injury, overcome physical limitations, or provide support. They are a great tool to have in your toolbox. Another prop you'll see at the studio is a yoga strap. So let's take a look at how straps are used and how they can help you get more out of your yoga practice. Straps come in many different lengths and sizes, and it's best to select a length based on how tall or short you are, or how long or short your limbs are. If you're taller and have longer arms and legs, for example, you probably want a longer strap. Straps can come in 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, or even 12 feet long, and they have either a buckle or a D-ring as its clasp. You want a strap that's well made. You want to make sure the buckle is stable and holds. If you have a buckle that doesn't hold, then there's the potential for injury. Straps are often used to overcome physical limitations like tight hamstrings or lack of mobility in the shoulder joint. They can be used to elongate certain muscle groups in the body, like in reclined hand to foot pose, as well as bringing certain parts of the body closer together, like the hands in Gomukhasana. Using a strap in certain poses can also help you attain better alignment. For example, in extended hand to foot pose, many students struggle keeping their bottom leg straight, their chest lifted, and at the same time extending the top leg. The compromise typically is a bent standing leg, a bent extended leg, or a collapsed chest. Using a strap in this situation on the extended leg allows the students to reap the full benefits of the pose. Just as with blocks, using a strap in certain poses can help overly ambitious students from doing too much too fast. Not all students are ready to grab their feet, for example, in a seated forward fold, even if the student next to them is able to do it. Using a strap around your feet in a seated forward fold could reduce the risk of rounding your spine as you extend forward, which often leads to or exacerbates low back pain. If you don't have any straps, there are usually plenty of household items you can use instead. Belts, towels, or even a rolled up shirt are great alternatives. If you think about it, a yoga strap is basically a belt anyway. Just like yoga blocks, yoga straps are a great asset for your yoga practice. They can help overcome physical limitations, protect against injury, and help you achieve better alignment. They are mostly utilized to elongate certain muscle groups or even bring different parts of the body closer together. Next, let's look at bolsters, which are primarily used for comfort. Bolsters are probably most frequently used in restorative yoga or yin yoga to help support the body or alleviate physical exertion. On occasion, you might see a student sitting on one to begin a yoga class instead of sitting up on blankets, but you wouldn't use it the same way that you would utilize a strap or a block. Actually, bolsters come in different shapes and sizes. Some might be long and narrow like this one, and others might be circular and thicker like this one. I prefer the rectangular bolster mainly because many students come to yoga with low back pain. And if you have any low back conditions, the large round bolster might be too intense. However, if you are a big back bender, the opposite is true, and the flat rectangular bolster might not help you reach your full potential in the pose. As I mentioned earlier, bolsters are mainly going to be used for comfort and support. You might take a seat on one at the beginning of a class or setting yourself up in a comfy restorative yoga pose. However, when used properly, bolsters can even help prevent injury or reduce the risk of aggravating an injury. For example, just lying in Shavasana with a bolster under your knees can provide the low back with a little more space that it needs. Let's be real. Bolsters are like big pillows, which is why we use them to lie on, roll on, and rest on. Because bolsters are synonymous with rest and relaxation, they are integral to the practice of restorative yoga. In restorative yoga, we use the bolster to cradle our body and hold and support us in an infinite amount of ways. So our hyperactive nervous system can take a break and our mind and body can quiet and rejuvenate. Basic poses like child's pose and Supta Baddha Konasana are transformed by simply using them with a bolster. If you don't have a bolster at home, there are plenty of household options you can choose from. Pillows are an obvious and great alternative for bolsters. They should be somewhat firm and long enough to support your torso. Couch cushions are another great option, and a stand in for bolsters, or even a thick comforter is another alternative. Whatever you use, it should be firm enough to support you and soft enough to comfort you. Bolsters have many benefits, but its main function is to provide comfort and support. The same goes for yoga blankets, which is the final prop we're going to talk about today. A yoga blanket is basically like any other blanket you might have around your house. The difference is how we fold, roll, or snuggle up with it in a yoga class. Blankets are incredibly versatile props because they can be used in so many different ways. They can become big or small, or used for comfort and support. Most commonly, blankets are used to support your seat at the beginning of a yoga class, but they're also frequently used in an array of different ways. Although blankets are probably most frequently used for your seat at the beginning of a yoga class, they are also used to protect the cervical spine in poses like bridge pose and shoulder stand. Elevating the torso in these poses provides space for the natural curve of the neck, which alleviates unnecessary weight bearing on this delicate part of the body. There is a common phrase in yoga that says, a healthy spine leads to a healthy mind, which is why it is important to keep your spine long while sitting. One simple solution is making sure you sit high enough so your knees rest below your hip creases in poses like Sukhasana or easy seat. By doing so, the spine has the space to elongate upward. There's nothing special or unique about a yoga blanket, which makes finding a household alternative extremely easy. You can use beach towels, a throw towel, or even a thin comforter as a substitute for a yoga blanket. As long as it can be rolled and folded into a few different shapes and sizes, it will do the trick. So there you have it. Whether you're looking to get a little extra comfort, refine your alignment, or even protect or prevent against injury, props are a great way to elevate your practice. Using props are not just for beginners. They have a diverse array of uses, which makes them an essential tool for your practice. They allow us to get much more out of our practice, whether we're looking for relaxation, a deeper stretch, or even to work on more advanced postures. Props let us do things that maybe we couldn't do completely on our own. I hope this has been helpful for you, and if you're interested in learning more, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We have tons of classes and videos to learn from, and if you really want to dig into any of these topics a little bit deeper, we have a ton of online courses to choose from as well.